Hello and welcome to Fire in the Belly. Today we have myself, Mighty Pete, and we're joined by Deon Fowler. Good afternoon, Deon.
Good afternoon, Pete. Thank you for having me.
Well, I
Well,
should
good
say,
morning on my end.
yes, I was going to say it's morning for you. So tell us, where are you calling in from today?
I am in Dallas, Texas.
Lovely part of the world, and it's hot, hot, hot.
Very hot, approximately 100 degrees today.
Wow, that's just not for me, but it's like that's pretty standard for that time of year, right?
Oh yeah. We might reach about 105, possibly even higher with the index. So yeah, but it's definitely so we're in the bulk of it right now in the climax with it being August. So yeah, it's definitely the hotter part of the year.
And humidity levels, are we high, low?
Yeah, so I would say higher than average.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're getting the best of both worlds here.
Oh, nice. It's like, I think you're safe. I'm not going to come visit anytime soon. That's just not for me.
Just wear less clothing when you do come. So yeah, just take that into consideration.
That makes sense. So, Dion, tell us, who are you? What are you doing? Where do you come from?
I'm an entrepreneur. Again, my name is Deon Fowler. I've been an entrepreneur for roughly about 5 years now. I'm originally from Monroe, West Monroe, Louisiana. It's a smaller city in the obviously in the northern part of Louisiana. That's where I was born and reared. I've been in Dallas again about 5 years now. Come from a banking background. Have a business degree and finance degree. Have a business management and a finance degree, and I utilized that in banking. Did that about a year and a half, and now I'm an entrepreneur for about 5 years now. Been loving it ever since.
Oh, wow. So, business, banking, why banking? What led you there?
Oh man, that's
Did
so
you take the wrong turning?
no, definitely it was all planned. So my upbringing, I come from a low income family where we didn't know how to necessarily manage money, didn't have knowledge about money, and with those coupled together, it was very hard for us for the most part. But naturally, I gravitated towards money as a little child. So early on, I always knew that I wanted to be better with my finances and help others manage theirs better. So again, early on, I knew that I wanted to be around finances and money.
That makes sense. Had you people that you looked up to at that time, or was it more pain driven, as in you didn't want to be in the same position again?
That was more pain driven, never wanting to experience some of the things that we experienced coming up. And also I just believe it was just some innate, gifts that was bestowed upon me.
That's awesome. I love that. So, tell us, Dan, what does fire in the belly mean to you?
Man, it's an indescribable feeling. I was pondering that question. And obviously it's different for everyone, but for me it's really indescribable. It's something that you're either, well, I was going to say it's something that you're either given or not given, but everyone has a fire in their belly. Not too many people have a desire to seek it out. Those who seek their fires out are obviously the people you see making splashes and waves in the world. But everyone has that fire in the belly. For me, it's something that keeps me going each and every day. It's something that I'm gonna hold on to until I leave this earth.
That's what I was going to say. Is that something you recognize in yourself and something you live by?
Oh yeah, certainly. That's my catalyst. Without that fire, without that drive, I'm just a nobody, honestly.
That's cool. So, take us right back to you mentioned there from Louisiana originally.
Yeah.
What was growing up for you like in so brothers
Oh
and
man.
sisters and
So I come from a family who I have five other siblings on my mom's side. I have three other siblings on my dad's side. I lived with my siblings on my mom's side. So again, I'm one of the middle two in that household. So, I experienced being bullied, and I been a bully to my younger siblings. So again, I got the best of both worlds in that dynamic. But it was fun times. It was challenging times, just like any other household for the most part. There was a lot of dysfunction. I can say it has definitely made me who I am today and has shaped my perspective on life and my perception on life. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. Again, great memories, not so great memories. But again, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
So, young young Deon, what are we looking at? What sort of a guy are we talking about?
Oh man, I'm football. Like I want to be the next Deion Sanders. You know, look. I want to go professional. I want to play professional football. That's many children's dreams. Growing up. And obviously coming from where I come from, you don't see too many other people than athletes, unfortunately. And just having that desire to play football. And when you're a little kid, sky's the limit for you, whatever. And in the football arena, making it to the National Football League is a dream for any and everyone. So that's who I was. That's who I was, day in and day out since I can remember. I started playing football in the third grade, and I was fortunate to play all the way through college. So it was a great experience. But I was a football guy. I was very curious, and I still am. But yeah, for the football dominated my life, my early childhood life for the most part.
Do you know why?
As I stated, I think it's because just coming from where I come from, you don't see too many other options.
Hmm.
So my dad, he's been a truck driver for roughly 20 years. My mom, she's worked with the elders in as like a I forgot the official term, caregiver
Hmm.
for elderly people. So outside of your immediate surroundings and environment, you don't see too many things but pro athletes when you turn on the television. So that was a huge reason why I, along with having some athletic ability to play the game.
And I mean, is it some? Were you the only one in your family, or did is this just something you picked up?
No, so my brother, I have an older brother, two older brothers on my mom's side and
Mhm.
one older on my dad's side. And my older brother on my mom's side, he actually played football. And again, I wanted to be just like him, but I wanted to be better. So yeah, so that was definitely a motivating factor as well.
So school, how was school for you? Was that something, or was just a pass through to get to the football field?
So I took school serious. Everything that I embark on, I'm gonna take serious, and school was one of those things. But my schooling career got off to a rough start. I actually, and it's easier to talk about it now because I've definitely moved past that point. But for me, I actually failed kindergarten. I don't think you hear too many people that say they failed kindergarten. But again, that was a blessing in the skies. Right then and there, and I almost failed the first grade. I look at it and I tell people it was a miracle. Like literally, it was the midway point throughout the year, and all of a sudden, I don't know, my whole trajectory on school, well, my performance in school changed because from that midpoint on, I went on to just be an A/B student throughout the rest of my schooling career. But yeah, the first again, I failed kindergarten, and I was on the verge of failing first grade. But I've always had I've always had the desire to learn, and obviously the effort to want to do well at it.
How do you fail kindergarten? Is that not pretty hard? It's like,
I don't. I look. I guess I didn't know my ABCs, or I don't know. But again, I'm glad and I'm fortunate that it happened because again, it it allowed me to relate to the other people that I had just been in class with, and I now gain new friends by retaking the grade over. And again, those are people that I still know to this day that I graduated with. And again, the former class, again, I still know some of them, a lot of them. And again, it's just better relations.
So young Deon, I mean, what were you going to do? Were you football all the way through, or had you any career in mind at that point?
When you say young Dion, elaborate on that question. How young is Dion?
Well, I would sort of say, I mean, probably 12, 13. You're starting to get an idea of the world, and what are you sort of thinking there?
12, 13. Again, it's still football. I believe I was maybe, I don't know, sixth or seventh grade at the time. Some probably the middle school
Hmm.
years. But again, I'm one track minded. I'm football. Like it's football, football, football. We used to live in these apartments, and my friend and I, we used to play football every single day. Like literally, we get out of school, we're gonna play football. If school wasn't in, we're gonna play football. Like that's all we thought about. Now as I obviously, as I matriculated through school or whatever, um, my my aspirations didn't necessarily change from football, but my perspective on life opened up.
Who were you looking to at that time? I mean, you were saying, I mean, was it really the people in the football world that they were your mentors, your inspiration, your heroes?
I had a football pee coach who's one of the greatest men that I've met while being on this earth, and he treated me like his son. He would actually come pick me up every day from my house and take me to practice as he got off work, because again, we lived across town, and my mom couldn't always get me there, or she didn't necessarily have the gas to take me there, or my dad, again, he was a truck driver, so he was off on the road or whatever. So again, I'm definitely grateful for my Pee Wee football coach, who actually, again, took me in as like his son, and showed me responsibility, as well as obviously my dad.
Mm, absolutely. So on through school then, what did you end up doing once you got through school and into college?
So I wound up graduating. So to rewind for a second, I definitely want to say the people that you surround yourself with. Obviously, you hear you hear the adage that birds of a feather flock together.
Mm.
And in high school, I had a group of individuals where two other individuals where our main concerns were football, money, and unfortunately chasing women. Those were, and making good grades in school, doing well in school. Those were our main concerns. The first priority was football. That's like number one. That's over everything. Tied for number two is all the others I stated. But having, as I look back on it now, because we had such fixed mindsets, and again, it was more times than not, it was us three together, that like-minded energy, it just circulated. Again, we were very positive people. We were very you could say we were very popular people in a sense. Again, everyone knew us for playing football, just being great, positive people, and I think that definitely played a part in wanting to go further than high school, because I was actually the first person in my family to graduate high school. And people ask me sometimes, was there a lot of pressure on that? There was no pressure, because I didn't even necessarily think about it as being pressure or being like the first person. It was just something that I was going to do, something that was just come. It's like you wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth. It's natural. It's what you're supposed to do, and that's the mindset that we had. in my group in high schools.
That's awesome. So I mean, you've kind of you're leading your own charge and such in that way, right?
Yeah,
To have that takes a lot of motivation, especially if there's no set track record around you either. You gotta get up and do your own thing.
exactly. And again, I think it comes back to your question, that fire in your belly. You either wanna more gasoline on it, or you want to keep it dormant. For
Mm.
me, again, football, I knew football was going to be my ticket out in a sense, uh, because again, if you can get a scholarship in football or any sports or academically, that pays for your schooling. And if your parents can afford it, that certainly decreases your opportunity or your chances of going to college, if you don't have an academic or athletic scholarship. So that's why I was banking on football as I look back on it now, subconsciously.
Wow. So yeah, it makes sense. I mean, that as you say, that's your ticket. So, if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do, right?
Yeah, certainly. And unfortunately, I didn't get a scholarship. So, I became a preferred walk-on. Again, I was going to go to college one way or the other. And again, because I loved football so much, again, I was willing to walk on and prove myself that, hey, I can play at this level, and I'm going to play football, and I'm also going to further my education.
Just explain that to us, because I mean, I know I'm not that clear on the terms. A walk on is basically you're called off the bench, but without commitment. Is that right?
Very close enough. So a walk on is very similar to a free agent
Okay.
in pro sports, where no one has given you a contract or an opportunity, a contractual opportunity. So you're just going to, hey, do a tryout to see if you make the team, in a
Mm.
sense. But again, they're not paying you any just yet until they actually give you that scholarship. So again, you're still paying out of pocket. Obviously you're going to school, so you're paying for that out of pocket, as well as you're on the football team. So again, you have to allot hours to that as well, without any funding from the university, as in a scholarship.
That's a fierce commitment for somebody. You're doing all the first for your family. And you're getting out there.
Yeah,
And you're having to prove your own worth even just to get there.
yeah. But it was nothing new for me, because that's what I've always been doing all of my life. I've always been an undersized athlete, so I've always had to prove myself. I was never the most athletic athlete or whatever, so I always had to work harder than everyone else. And again, this has been happening. I realized this in middle school. One day, I mean, I was like the fastest kid or whatever on the team, and all of a sudden, people started to become faster than me or whatever. And again, like, so I knew then I had to, again, if I wanted to compete and again earn a scholarship, I had to work my ass off. So that's the mind frame that I took, from essentially pee wee football to middle school to high school, then to college.
So college, what was your major in college, or what was your?
So initially, I attended the University of Louisiana Lafayette. It's the southern part of Louisiana. It's a total different. I wouldn't say a total different culture, but it's a huge culture difference than living in North Louisiana. When you talk about great food, like, I don't know if you're familiar, like, with New Orleans, Louisiana.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but New Orleans is approximately 2 hours from Lafayette. So again, South Louisiana is known for their food and their rich culture. And man, I definitely enjoyed it while I was there. But I decided to major in finance initially at the University of Louisiana Lafayette.
On the food score, what's the delicacies down there? What's the what's on the menu?
Cajun. So
Okay.
the school's name is Louisiana Raging Cajuns. So again, seafood, any and all types of seafood. Obviously crawfish, boudin, any type of shrimp. Um, Obviously, you have the Mardi Gras, the parades. Again, actually it was voted. Lafayette was actually voted one of the top 10 happiest places to live in the
Oh,
United States. This was probably a couple years ago.
hmm.
So again, people love their food. People love having a good time.
So that's a great place. So you're down there, you're studying finance, you're having a great old time, and life's great, right?
Life is great. Again, I was fortunate enough to be a preferred walk-on and not necessarily a walk-on, because if I was a walk-on, I would have had to try out to make the team. But being a preferred walk-on, it's like, hey, we know that you can play, so you're going to skip the line essentially, and you're just going to come onto the team. So yeah, life is great. I'm a freshman. I'm out. I'm in college. I'm living the life. The freshman college life. I'm playing football. I'm trying to earn my spot on the team. It couldn't be at that point. It couldn't be any better. I'm making a name for myself. So yeah, it's a great time.
And for those, those friends and peers that you grew up with, was this a route for all you guys? I mean, was it sort of a done thing?
Yeah. So one, one other gentleman, he actually earned a scholarship to the local college in our hometown. So he wound up staying home, which in hindsight was a great decision for him. And the other gentleman, he wound up going to a community college for 2 years, and we actually wound up meeting back at another college down the road. So yeah, so both of those individuals and my other close friends, we all went to college.
That's awesome. So you're actually getting on and you're getting to learn finance and
Yep.
and how was finance for you learning?
So as a freshman, you're not taking your primary finances class. You're taking a lot of intros,
Hmm.
but you take a lot of accounting, intros to economics, intros to like business management. The first day of class, my accounting class, we uh, we were balancing budgets, like we were balancing the books. And I said, oh my God, if accounting is like this, I don't want to leave. I might need to change my major to accounting. But that was just one part of accounting. And as we further throughout the year, it's like, accounting is, yeah, like I'm not, yeah, accounting. I'll leave it where it is.
What was it about? Was it the numbers, or what's your strong points in your subjects? Are you language? Are you sciences, maths? What are you?
So I'm a numbers guy.
Hmm.
I enjoy finances, but accounting is I believe they say uh, accounting it accounting may be the parent, and like finance may be like the cousin, or economics may be a sister or something like that, but they were all intertwined or whatever. But I gravitate more towards finances, just the number side, and again economics as well. That's a great study, to take on as well. But accounting is more of the books, uh, managing the keeping everything in order in terms of balance sheets and income statements, profit and loss, things like that. Which I enjoy. I enjoy looking at an income statement,
That's not something
but
people say that often.
some I don't.
So
What's
looking at
that?
looking at income statements is it's not something people would say that often.
Right? Yeah.
Where is the inspiration for this come from? I mean, what triggered this whole finance and taking that route?
Again, coming from where I come from, obviously, if you can learn to manage finances correctly, you can definitely set yourself up for a better life. And again, coming from where I come from, because I didn't see too much of that, on from my mom specifically. I definitely wanted to have it for myself. And again, it was also more, it was innate for me. You know, again, I just naturally gravitated towards money. I remember I used to get an allowance every so often, like $20. And I used to run to the store and get 21s. And sometimes I would even iron those ones to make them hot and crisp or whatever. But my reasoning behind it, now that I look back on it, is because I could allocate, you know, 21s better than I could allocate a $20 bill. So it was just one of those things that, again, I was naturally gravitated towards money and finances.
I love that. Yeah, that you're actually allocating and budgeting almost at that point that
Oh yeah. So I
you
actually started budgeting when I was 15 years old. I was fortunate to take a free enterprise class in high school where I fell in love with the class because, again, it was on free enterprise. It was on financial literacy. It was on budgeting. It talked about economics. And again, I just love that stuff. And my teacher, who was also a coach, and he just recently passed away, he introduced me to Dave Ramsey. He says, Fowler, you will love this guy by the name of Dave Ramsey. You need to check him out. You know, he has a great story. And I didn't check out Dave Ramsey until I got to college. But again, taking that free enterprise class only heightened my desire to learn more about finances. Again, I couldn't wait to get my first job. In when I was 16 years old, I used to carry around my check register in my back pocket. Every little transaction I made, I would write in, just like the old people do. I would write it in, I would balance it out. Again, so yeah, I was making budgets when I was 15 years old. I wanted a credit card when I was 16, not to foolishly spend, but I wanted to already start working on my credit score. I wanted to start building credit. My plan was, you know what? I got a job, so again, obviously I can pay my bill. My whole plan was, you know what? I'm going to buy one item a month. And again, maybe I buy a pack of gum. I just pay it off, bam. And again, it shows I'm building credit worthiness.
are you by nature, are you a saver or spender? What's your profile?
I'm definitely a saver.
Hmm. Hmm. Just is it the compounding side, or is it having security, or what's your thought process there?
Well, because you never know what tomorrow is going to bring, it's always safe to err on the side of caution and save more than you spend. And obviously, when you save, you don't want to just save to save. You want that money to be working for you, and that's something that I've come to learn throughout my life. So yeah, and again, obviously, you never know when a pandemic is going to happen as well, a global pandemic.
Yeah, funny that, isn't it? It's like, who would ever have seen this coming? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy, crazy times. It really is. So on that, I mean, when you're going through and you're actually, you're evolving in sort of this world of finance, what that took you right through college, did it?
So so I was majoring in finance for 2 years at the University of Louisiana Lafayette. I wound up transferring from that university and coming back home and finishing up at Grambling State University. The reason behind transferring was for football. I wasn't I wasn't getting I wasn't necessarily happy where I was in terms of football, my football opportunities at that school. So again, I decided to transfer home, which again I finished at Grambling State University, which is 30 minutes from
Hmm.
my hometown. And there, because they did not have a finance major, but they had a business management major, I decided to uh, embark upon that and minor in finance.
You got modern finance?
Yeah, a concentration in finance, a minor.
Ah, okay, cool. But that got you playing football again, right?
Yep, they got me playing football again. So rewinding here, um, I probably 70% of my time at University of Louisiana was I dealt with injuries. And if you're injured, it's hard to prove yourself. Again, being a walk-on, you know, um, my freshman year, I was fortunate to be asked by the coach if I wanted to actually play my freshman year as a freshman, as a walk-on. But because we only had 4 games left in that year, I decided not to because, again, I could save that year and I could get an additional year because I didn't play my first year. I decided to wait. But in hindsight, would I have done it differently? Probably not. But because from that point on, I really started dealing with a lot of injuries, I never saw the field. And again, those coaches got fired and they brought in new coaches. So now I have to reprove myself as a walk-on. I'm competing with, again, other athletes who are, some of them are stronger, faster, bigger, whatever. And again, everyone has their pros and cons or whatever. But with this new coaching staff, they don't know me. Like, they just know that, hey, I'm just a walk-on on the football team. So now I have to put in the work, have to continue to put in the work, to prove to them. And eventually, it just got to a point where, again, I was proving myself along with dealing with injuries at the same time. And I just looked at the situation that I was in, and I decided it was best to just transfer because I was going into my junior year, I believe at the time. I was going into my junior year, and I was like, you know what? It'll be best just to transfer because, again, we had a long line of people that I was competing with, and again, I could say that I was better in some areas than them. I could say they were better in some areas than me. But because, number one, those guys were already on scholarship, and again, it's like they're paying them to play because, again, they've already invested into them, and in which they had not invested into me yet. It was going to be harder to jump over that hurdle right there. So I decided it was best for me to just transfer, take like a month or two off during that transferring time, let my body heal, because again, that's what I needed more than anything. My body needed healing. And again, I have a freshman start at Grambling State.
How, what was your mindset through all this? I mean, did you enjoy the challenge, or was it constant pressure having to prove yourself and get the games? And
You know, it, there was pressure, but not as much as you would think. But having to prove myself, that's second nature. Again, I've always had to do that. I've always wanted to work harder than the next man. I've always wanted to be the best, again, the best person that I could be, whether it's a student, athlete, whatever. So again, wanting to prove myself, it just, it fell in line. But there definitely was times where there were dark times where just dealing with injuries, knowing that you can actually contribute to the team and be on the field, but because you're dealing with injuries, it wouldn't allow you to do so. That was the hardest challenge right there. Knowing that you could actually play on the field, but because you're dealing with injuries, it wouldn't allow you to let that happen.
yeah, it's always a tough one, because I'm wondering at that point, are you competing against yourself? I mean, are you your own critic and supporter, or is it comparison to other people, or what were you thinking?
As an athlete, it's a little bit of both because you know a lot of athletes are competitive, and if you're not competing with your just initially, if you're not competing with yourself, you know you can definitely lose. You can definitely lose fire. You can definitely lose hope if you're just competing with other people.
Mm.
But you know, for me, it was both. You know, I'm competing to again to become better, to become stronger, faster, better at my position, as well as you know, outwork and outperform uh, my counterparts.
What was your position on the field? What's your strength?
So I played running. I played running back and slot receiver.
Okay, so you kind of got to have pretty good fitness to be there, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and again, you do a lot of cutting. You do a lot of accelerating. Obviously, decelerating. That's football in general, but especially at those positions, you have to be very agile. And because that those positions like all really like all positions on the football field requires that my injury was a growing injury. You know,
Mm.
I had actually dealt with a growing injury when I was in high school as well. As a matter of fact, I got my first growing injury in middle school. I actually pulled my growing during a game, and that's just followed me obviously all the way through college. But again, if you can't, you know, if you can't cut, you know, if you can't, if you don't have any power or you don't have full strength at your growing area, it's going to be hard to maneuver and play at full speed.
You were saying so you're smaller than most of the other guys, is that right? Have I did I?
Well, not necessarily in, probably in height. Well, it really just depends on what position you're playing. So I had some. I was bigger than some guys that I was competing with, and I was smaller than some guys that I was competing with. So again, everyone has their pros and cons, but for the most part, I was a smaller back. But at running back or slot receiver, those are going to be your smaller, fit, nifty, stout players.
That makes sense. So third year you've come more or less home. Third
Yeah.
year back into football. So where are you going?
So again, I transferred to Grambling State University. It's a HBCU. It's a historical Black college university. Um, I actually reached out to a guy from my hometown who was actually already there, and he was actually a year behind me in school. He and I did not go to the same school, but I knew of him because again, uh, coming from a smaller town, if you're an athlete, you pretty know you know a lot of other athletes or whatever. And I before transferring, I reached out to him to ask like, hey man, what's the climate there? How are you guys doing? You know, they had just come off winning um, a a conference championship, and so did we at University of Louisiana. So we had just come off winning a bowl game. You know, we went to the New Orleans Bowl, and so, but I reached out to him, and he was like, "Hey, man, I think you'll be a good fit here. Let me talk to the coaches and see how they feel or whatever." And the coaches like what they heard and like what they saw, and I transferred there, and the growing pain didn't go away. It didn't go away. Um, there's different seasons in a football year. You know, you have your off season, you have your off season, you have your game seasons, you have like your preseason. And I transferred during the summer, so that's off season. That's like summer workouts or whatever. So as soon as I got to Grambling or whatever, they're going through summer workouts where they're running, they're training, they're lifting, they're doing all this to get stronger, faster, better, all of that. And my growing still wasn't 100%. But again, I don't have any other choice. I have to get out here. I got to prove myself again. I'm still a walk on. Keep in mind. So again, I still again these coaches definitely don't know who I am or my talents or anything that I've done in my prior at the prior school. So again, I have to prove myself, and again, I have to prove myself to the players as well. But yeah, I still battled with growing injuries there as well. I remember, like it was yesterday, The first day, before, so you have your summer workouts, then you have what they call camp. Camp is like preseason. It's like before the actual season starts. It's probably like a month of training where you guys are in, like, you guys are working on football related um, deals or whatever, football related activities. And before camp, I actually had got a cortisone shot from the doctor to alleviate a lot of the pain in my growing. And I got this probably a couple of days before camp started, just so I can be ready. And the first day I hit that field, it was my dad's birthday. I never forget. It was August 9th. I felt like a new person. I felt like a baby. I had never felt that. I felt normal. I felt regular. Like there was no pain for the first time in like a couple years. It felt amazing. But obviously the cortisone it's not a permanent fix. But again, when you're going through camp and you're having 2-a-days and things like that, you're running, you start to eventually I started to feel that pain gradually coming back, and eventually it just started to worsen.
It must be pretty hard to feel that coming back, and that just doesn't want to go away.
Man, it was, yeah, it was, it was. I'm telling you, that was my hardest challenge in college.
In what way do you think is it the mindset side, or is it the realization, or what was it?
It was definitely the mindset, because again, knowing that you can contribute, knowing that you can play, but because your health and injury wouldn't allow
Mm.
you to, yeah, it takes a blow on your confidence, but it's just something that, it is what it is, and I continue to stick it out, and finally my growing healed, because again, we went through that season and I didn't play, because again, I could barely make it through practice. At the end of practice, we're running wind sprints, and every position groups are running together, and I'm like in the back because I'm dragging along my growing, because, and again, we're running 100-yard sprints, but again, no one is telling me I have to be out there. So this is just me wanting to prove myself that I belong out here, and again, they're not paying me to be out there. So if I want it, I have to persevere and go through all of this to show them that. But we go through that. We go throughout that season, and we're horrible. We don't even win a game. And again, off season comes, and that gives me time to really rehab and heal my growing the proper way. Without being on it the next day, and doing treatment, then being back out running, and doing treatment and being back out on it running. So, but with the off season, it allowed me to just heal, do nothing for, I don't know how long it took, but again, eventually the pain went away. It healed 100%. So I'm looking forward to what they call spring camp. Again, spring camp is right after, it's probably 2 or 3 months after the football season ends. And it's a time for you to show the coaches, your potential, and what they can look forward to next season. And at that time, like I'm getting better at my craft. I'm like, I can feel myself. I can see myself. You know, I live in an apartment with three other, well, actually 2 other athletes, and we're grinding every single day. Like, we're getting in, we're competing with one another. Like, we're really, because again, we had come off a 0-win season. So we're like, next season, it's not going to be that way. So we're really putting in the work. We're putting in the hours to make it happen. And spring ball is probably 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks away, and we're out having we're out having workouts, team workouts, where we're running, and we're running wind sprints, and I take off, and I hear a pop in my hamstring, and I pull my hamstring for the first time ever in my career. And spring ball is 2 weeks away, and I'm devastated. I am devastated at this point, because I know, like, this is my opportunity. Like, I know I'm about to kill, like in spring. Like, like, this is my time. That's what I've been telling myself. This is what everybody knows. Like, look, Deon is gonna have a great spring. And like 2 or 3 weeks before, pulled my hamstring, and it was probably a minor to moderate pull. So it wasn't necessarily a severe pull, but obviously a minor. Again, if you've had injuries, sports related injuries before, they don't just go away. Even if they are minor, they just like linger on. And so again, I'm back rehabbing like 2 or 3 weeks before spring ball starts, and I'm getting ready. I'm like, I don't care. Like, if I have to drag it out there, spring ball, I don't care if I'm 50%. I'm getting out there. I gotta show myself. I gotta prove. I gotta show the coaches, what it is. And spring ball comes, and I have it wrapped up. Have it packaged, wrapped up with bands and stuff like that. And we have a long hill to go into the stadium. And I can feel myself as I'm going down the hill. I still feel the pain. I'm like, shit. I'm probably 85, 90%. But as we start going through drills, and you put more pressure and stress on it, you start to feel it. You start to feel it. In camp, spring ball is probably about, I don't know, about 3 weeks to a month. So I dealt with that throughout the duration of that, so it was just one of those things.
Are people seeing this? I mean, can you hide it, or do you want to hide it, or is it just obvious?
I mean, people definitely see my tenacity. They see my determination. They see my willingness to just fight through this and train through this. And again, that definitely gives me respect from the other players. But just personally, obviously it's just a thing that you hate. It's, yeah. I remember, and this is like actually before this even got here, but I remember when I first got to Grambling, and like I said, it was we were about to go into camp during that time. I remember just going home, because when you go into camp, fall camp is what they call it, like pre-training. Like, you're on campus like for a month. You can't leave the campus. Like, this is your itinerary from 6 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock. It's football related. It's everything's football, and you can't necessarily like go back to your dorm, or go back to your living quarters. You're like, everyone is together, stuff like that. But one night they either let us go back to our living quarters, to our homes or whatever, apartments, or I just snuck off. But I remember just driving to my apartment and listening to a song. I don't know if I intentionally put on a song, or it just came on the radio. No, it definitely came on the radio. And it's one of the songs that stuck with me ever since. And it was called Even If. And it's a song by Cutlass. It's a Christian song. It's called Even If. And the nature and the overview of the song is, even if God doesn't come through, will you still trust him? Even if it doesn't, even if the situation doesn't work out in your favor, will you still believe? Even if you don't get what you want, will you continue to remain faithful? And I literally almost just burst out in tears, just driving. I still remember just driving on a dark back road, listening to that song, But it was just again, that's just the stuff, I went through just dealing with that injury.
I was gonna say, again, your mindset through this. I mean, you've these highs and lows. You're ready. You're not ready. You're carrying an injury. You're not carrying an injury. So,
Yeah.
I mean, fair play to you that you've kept your eye on the goal. You are still, really focused on moving forward, right?
Yeah, certainly. Long story short, were you going to say something?
No, no, go on ahead.
Long story short, after spring ball, again, you have the off season, which is the summertime, and after the summertime, again, you have fall camp again. And with fall camp, the coaches can only bring in so many players. There can only be there's approximately 95 players. And normally that's based on how you performed in spring ball. More times than not, if you're a scholarship player, you're automatically already guaranteed a spot in camp. But if you're not a scholarship player, or if you're just performing poorly or whatever, you're on the cusp. And from spring to the beginning of fall camp, I didn't know my future on the team, because again, that's normally decided probably like a week before, fall camp starts. So I'm like, I'm still training. I'm still rehabbing my hamstring at this point. Like I don't know my future on the team. But long story short, they wind up not inviting me back for fall camp. Now I could have come after fall camp and like pretty much like retried out for the team or whatever, but essentially because they didn't bring me back, it's like, but having said that, when they didn't bring me back, because as I told you, I had two other roommates that I lived with who played football, and they were both on scholarships. They told me like the first day of camp, they all chanted like, "Bring Deon in, bring Deon in, bring Deon in." Like the whole football team chanted that, for the coaches to bring me in. But it never happened, and I wasn't necessarily disappointed. I just understood and understood that, hey, this was it's going to be a new turning point in my life.
It's great to get them in the support of your teammates and everything else, and to feel that compassion with other people.
Certainly, yeah.
So where were you going then? What was the next stage for you?
It's time to think about life after football. At that point, I knew that, making it to the NFL after all these years wasn't going to be possible. So again, I'm not a person to necessarily cry over spilled milk. I'm about to find my next move. And for that, I was still a college student. I still had to graduate, and I started to focus more on my studies and dig deeper into what I wanted to do after college. Again, I was already pursuing a business management degree with the concentration in finance. And again, I knew I wanted to be help people with finances and money. So I knew post college, I was going to go into the banking industry, or pretty much the financial service industry.
So the finance side of it, so that's sort of front and center for you again.
Yep.
Coming out of college, then where are you going?
So coming out of college, before I actually graduated, so soon as football ended for me, I started looking for work opportunities. I needed to have money in my pocket, and probably a month went by, and I hadn't heard from anyone that I wanted to work for. But I did apply to be like a car transporter, is what they call them at, like, I don't know if you're familiar with like the car rental places, the
Yep.
people who drive like to and from the airports and transporting cars and cleaning the cars. So I actually applied for that position or whatever, and I started to give up on it. I'm like, they're never going to call back or whatever. And all of a sudden, I get a call back, hey, we want you to come in or whatever. Long story short, I wound up actually interning with that company, which was Hertz Rental Car
Mm.
in the office. So I started as a transporter, and because they offer a internship as a manager trainee where you get to learn the ropes of selling and customer service and dealing with like the in-office work of a rental car company, I wound up interning with them probably maybe 6 months later, and I wound up killing it. I wound up being one of the top interns in the entire company, which helped my resume upon the graduation of college.
Why did you kill it?
Because it was easy, because I took that same mindset, that same ambition, that same drive that I had for football, and I just placed it into a new vehicle. It's again like, and that's why I've said, if you want to be the best at what you do, the vehicle doesn't necessarily matter. What you do doesn't necessarily matter. Again,
Mm.
if you have that desire, all the intangibles are just going to transfer over.
So straight in, Hertz has given you the opportunity. You've run with it. You've
Oh yeah, oh yeah, easily. Upon they wanted me to stay on when I graduated to become a manager of another office, and I was like, you know what, I already knew what my passion and love was, and that was again finances, money, financial services. So I knew I wanted to be in that area, not necessarily selling rental cars. So I just knew that was going to be short term. But I tell you how life works. Upon graduating, there were so many job opportunities that came my way. I was getting job opportunities from, because of my stellar resume with how I performed at Hertz just with sales. Everybody wanted to bring me in for an interview. Everybody wanted to hire me. And I felt like that was the universe, God, the creator, giving me what I wanted upon graduating high school in football football
mm.
scholarship offers. But I wind up taking an offer in to work for a bank here in Dallas. They were starting the first ever bankers program at their bank, and I was fortunate to be one of 8 college graduates selected to take part in this program. It was, and I'm proud to say I was the only Louisianan, and the seven others were Texans.
I mean, you're really sort of pushing the boat out here because you've educated further than anyone else in your family. You're pushing through the college, your jobs, everything else. You're just going further and faster than anyone, right?
Right? Yeah. I mean, but that's the passion. That's the fire in the belly that I've always had. You know, it could have been college football. It could have been whatever. It could have been occupation. It's just that desire that I've always had.
Were you always able to relate to people your same age and others in your year group, or did you find yourself just thinking differently?
I've always been an independent thinker. I've always thought for myself, but as well as listened to others and took part in other conversations. But for the most part, yeah, I've been an independent thinker. Um, so, but a lot of people have always come to me for advice. So I guess that's just one of the perks of being an independent thinker, I guess.
So you've got in with the local bank, or this
Uh-huh.
the finance. Are you straight in? I mean, is this where you're supposed to be?
This absolutely, absolutely. I discuss this with my girlfriend every so often. Like it couldn't have been a perfect transition from college to the real world, as they say. Because I had money in my bank account that I had been working for at Hertz. I got this great opportunity to leave to leave Louisiana, which I knew that I knew that's what I wanted initially. Again, I wanted to get out of Louisiana. I wanted to come to a metropolitan city. Again, if I was been a big city kid, and so that transition, it couldn't have been better. We go into this 4 month training program where literally it didn't feel like work for the first 4 months. They were training these college graduates to be like the next superstars of the bank. They have our face on the company's website and things like that. They're taking us around to other branches in the bank, hyping us up, telling everyone, hey, these kids are going to be the future, blah, 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 blah. So again, I couldn't have asked for a better transition from college.
That's a pretty sweet deal to get in on, right?
Oh yeah, certainly.
So what you were able to, you had your training period and you got in through that and you put to work.
Yeah, they put us to work and said, hey, go get them, Tiger. And so, but during those 4 months, that 4 month period, we knew that we were going to be placed at a certain branch. We didn't know where, and we didn't know which branch was going to actually, like, quote unquote, recruit us to be the banker at their bank. But we had an idea of who it was going to be. But the branch that chose me, that was actually one of the top banks in the entire company. That was a rock store. That was the rock store branch, and the head manager there, he was a rock star himself. He was like, what, if something has to be done, like, he's that person to do it. He's gonna go out there. He's gonna beat the streets. If you need loans, if you need investments, he's gonna go make it happen. And this is the gentleman who recruited me, to be placed in his branch. But as soon as I got there, this guy was leaving because he had done so well. He was being promoted. So they wound up bringing in another branch manager to take his place, which this manager, he was another cool dude, good dude, great performing manager. And he had brought me in to just speak with me about, things going forward. He was like, hey, there's some people here that, like, we kind of, like, we're not too high on, like, we're possibly gonna, be terminating them. You could possibly take your spot or whatever. And he was like, hey, I know you've gone through this 4 month ramp up period, so people are expecting, some high hopes from you or whatever. And I told him, I was like, you don't have to worry about me. I remember specifically telling him, like, I didn't come here to be average. I'm gonna put up numbers. I'm going to do what y'all brought me here to do. So we got to rolling from there.
Were you customer facing or were you internally facing or?
Customer facing. Yeah, I love interacting with people. Again, I love feeling that energy and just being able to relate to them, and again, talk to them ultimately about their finances, about money, how we can bridge the gap between that.
So what happened then? So you get into the job, you're getting up to speed, and
I'm getting up to speed, but speed is not coming faster enough. So like it's like some of my other colleagues. So there was 8 of us total in this group. 4 of us was in the Houston. Four of us was in the Dallas market. 4 people were in the Houston market. And again, we all stayed in contact with each other to see how things were going. And some people, they were taking off faster than myself, and we would tease each other about it or whatever. But I knew who I was as a person in terms of like when you come into banking as a banker or whatever, there's a lot of there's different services that you can quote unquote sell. And you have to you have to find your niche, you have to find your lane. And it takes a while, and it took me a while to find like my lane on what I was going to do well in. And eventually for me, it became investments. because again, I didn't really too much care about loans. I didn't care about bringing in like big dollar like checking accounts or business accounts for the most part. I like my bread and butter was finances and investments. Like I knew because again, I had been a self learner, and I had already known about finances even in college. You know, I wanted to start my Roth IRA even in college, so I had already had knowledge about investments. So it was just a matter of time before like I got confident in that area to be able to talk with clients about it. And once I did, that ramp up period for me was probably about I can remember like the superiors or the upper management, you know, checking in every now and then. Hey, Deon, you know, how's it going? Or and they knowing like it's not going as as it should have been going at that time. But you know, just me telling them, hey, you know, it is what it is. You know, just it's gonna come. You know, and eventually it did. Eventually, I became one of the top bankers in investments in the entire region.
Well, what is it about the investments? Is it the long term? Is it the compounding? Is it the security against, pandemics and the likes? Or
Well, it really just depends on the customer's goals. Everyone's every client, every person has different objectives, depending upon their time horizon. If you're talking to a 65-year-old, if you're talking to a 55-year-old opposed to a 25-year-old, the conversations are different. That 25-year-old, he's going to be more aggressive in his investment portfolio than a 55-year-old, because again, the 55-year-old typically only has 10 years left for retirement, so he can't be as aggressive as a 25-year-old can be in his.
well, it makes sense, so that you can actually move forward and utilize it.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened?
Man, I just started hitting big. You know, I started, learning more about investments on my own turn, on my own time, uh, getting more opportunities, getting more comfortable talking with people about their financial trajectory and things like that. And before you know it, I started getting yeses, and um, that led to that built more confidence, and from there, it just kind of took off.
And did were you sort of managing your own finances, and were you building up yourself at that time, or were you?
Oh yeah, certainly. Me and a other banker like who had came in with me, whatever, we couldn't wait like to again open our Roth IRAs or whatever, like because we wanted to invest for ourselves or whatever, And so I've always been a person to again, I've always been diligent in my own finances, and for the most part, there was a time in college where I actually defaulted on a credit card, and I tell people this, financial behavior trumps financial knowledge. You could be the smartest person in the world about what to do with your money, but if you don't necessarily know what not to do in terms of your behavior, it means nothing. And that's why I defaulted on my first credit card in college. So, and again, that's just a story I use to just for people to understand like how financial behavior, just behavior period, trumps your knowledge about finances. But yeah, ultimately, I've always been diligent and uh, kept my finances intact.
What's your golden rules for financial behavior? What's key for you?
So Dave Ramsey says financial literacy is 80%. I think it's 90% financial behavior and only 10% financial knowledge. So again, if you can learn the basics of finance, you could ultimately do well. That's why believe it or not, a lot of teachers actually, there's more teachers that become millionaires than any other industry, because again, they're very long-term focused. They're very methodical. They're very step by step by step. They know that, hey, I'm going to, and obviously teachers don't make a lot as much as other professions, but because, you know, it's a long-term game and they understand that, and they have other incentives along with like their 403B that they're taking it out of their check every month, it compounds. And when it's all said and done, a lot of those teachers are millionaires.
Is there any go-to books or anything that you'd recommend?
Yeah. So I read a book in college. I read my first Dave Ramsey book in college after my free enterprise teacher told me to learn about him in high school. But that book is called, I think it's Win with Money. No, no, it's not. It's so Dave Ramsey is famously known for his book Total Money Makeover. That's not the one I'm referring to. This one is called, I can't even really remember, but it was Winning with Money or something along those lines. But that really heightened my my knowledge for finances just by reading that book as well. So I would definitely recommend that one.
Because thinking that you've got the likes of, your Rich Dad, Poor Dad, your Robert Kiyosaki type
Yep.
scenario as well, So it's
Uh-huh.
all,
Oh yeah.
but you're following those principles, and not only that, you're learning about them, you're implementing the job, and you're able to do that. Because I do love that, behavior trumping knowledge. I think that's so smart, because people say I haven't got the money, I haven't the time, or whatever it is,
Yep.
or it's too late. But actually, it's never too late.
Definitely. Definitely. But the earlier the better.
Yeah. So where are you going to then? I mean, you're sort of building up your time in the company, and it's getting better and better for you.
So at this point, I'm about a year and a half in the company, and I'm doing well in the investments area as a banker, but I'm also working with a lot of business clients. I'm having a lot of meetings with business people in terms of them opening up checking accounts, them starting businesses. So that's starting to pique my interest as well. But I'm also noticing something unusual happening at my apartment complex that I lived at, and that was I was seeing a moving truck every single day. Someone was either coming in or leaving the complex. And I got very curious. I said, let me check this industry out. Let me see what it's all about. Did some research, and it's like a 16, $17 billion industry, and it's steadily growing. And in one sense, it's a econ proof business. And I said to myself, one day I'm gonna start a moving company. Keep in mind, I had never saw a moving truck a day in my life because, again, growing up in Monroe, West Monroe, Louisiana, the dynamics of moving is not as prevalent as it is in a larger city. So again, I had never saw a moving truck until I actually came to Dallas. So from that point, I said, you know what, one day I'm going to start my company. And from there, I started gradually putting the pieces to the puzzle together. And one day I'm sitting, no, before we even get to that point, I'm moving apartment complexes. I'm moving to a total different complex. And I actually hired movers for the first time. And the company who's moving me is by the name of K&T. And me and one of the movers were actually sitting into the elevator going to my new apartment. I say, hey, who is K&T? He says, oh, that's my boss. We started this company about 5 years ago. Now we have like 10 or 12 trucks. I said, interesting. Because at that point, I had already been doing research on the moving industry. So they had he had confirmed what I already knew about the industry. So I just heard it from the horse's mouth at that point or whatever. And again, gradually from there, I was already just, again, doing research, putting my business plan together to actually start my company one day. And lo and behold, I was sitting in my office with one of my good clients or whatever, and this gentleman, he had about 500,000 in his accounts roughly, but he was an older gentleman, probably about 50, mid 50s, but he would never want to do any investments with me. And I always thought to myself, why, or whatever. At that point, I was actually working on like a non-profit charity like account for them or whatever, getting that opened up. But we were having small talk in my office one day, and he was like, "Yeah, I got to move next week." And I said, "I own a moving company, right?" And at that point, I was like 90% of completion for having it up and running. He says, "No kidding." He says, "Send me the information or whatever." I sent it to him, and we got him scheduled for that following Friday. And at that point, I had already had my crews together because, again, I had been interviewing people. I had been doing my research. And that following Friday, I had my men in place. I went out and rented a truck on my lunch break. And I met those two gentlemen. And I gave them the assignment. And I went back to work while they conducted the move.
That's a ballsy move. I mean, that's sort of say yes and work out the details later, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was just one of those things that was unavoidable. I was actually got some great advice from one of a business client. He was this older guy, and he's a business guy. He used to always be in a hurry. His name was Mr. Buster, William Buster. He used to always be in a hurry every time anyone saw him. And one day I was letting him into the safe deposit box. And I says, "Hey, William, give me a golden tip." He says, "You'll never become wealthy working for anyone else." And along with other advice that I had been getting from business clients, I just put that into the vault and held on to that, and that obviously that led to just me opening up the moving company. But I was also sitting in my office one day with like 3 or 4 gentlemen, and they were starting like this, I don't know, this venture. And the guy who was spearheading it, he was his brother was the lead, but the brother wasn't there.
Hmm.
And he said, "Yeah, my brother, he's the engineer behind all of this or whatever. Like he started his first business like when he was like 20 years old." And I asked him, I was like, "Is that business still around?" He says, "Yeah." And when I heard that, that was confirmation for me. Like, if he can do it, I can do it. And again, So that was again coupled with everything that I had already been getting and receiving. It was just a matter of time before I started my own business.
What was it, with the moving business? I mean, you didn't even get involved yourself. You designed it to be passive or to be remotely operated from the get-go, right?
So that was my initial plans. But when you jump into business, like you don't know what you don't know until you're actually in the meat of in the bulk of it. And so when I got everything up and running before, I think maybe before I even did the first move, I was getting calls like while I was at work, because keep in mind, this is the summertime. And again, most people move during the summer. So I'm getting calls already. So that's an indication that, hey, like it's a booming business. But after we did that first move, or I believe I actually had put in my 2-week notice prior to that first move. And after that, I realized, after getting those phone calls, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to do both.
Mm.
It's like, it's going to be one or the other. And hey, this seems promising, so this is where I'm going.
I like that. I mean, in fairness, you've done your research, you're building up the market, you're testing it, you're trialing it, you're building your crews, all the rest. So you're very much pushing forward, but it's calculated risk, right?
Oh yeah, certainly. Certainly. I mean, it has to be calculated risk. Some things, hindsight is always 2020. But and I tell people this, had I known what all it took and what all the moving industry involved, I would have been more hesitant to start.
Mm.
But sometimes, you know, they say ignorance is bliss. Sometimes we don't need to know all the details. Sometimes we just need to make that jump and build a parachute on the way down. Because sometimes having too much information, which I'm glad that I didn't have all the information, it probably would have paralyzed me and I probably would have never made that jump.
What were some of those lessons?
Oh man, what were some of those lessons? So the moving, so no one wants to be a mover like when they're a little kid and you know people ask them what they want to do. I want to be a mover. They may say I want to be a moving, I want to own a moving company, but not necessarily a mover. So what I quickly found out about the moving industry, you get the bottom of the barrel people, the people that gives you the most problems, the most headaches, unreliable, all of that. So there were times where I would show up in my business in a business suit because after I leave my guys, I'm headed to a networking event. Some guys wouldn't show up. So I would have to run home, get dressed into my moving gear, and go do the move.
Fair play. I
Yeah.
mean, that's hands on. You got it. You just got to duck in there, right?
Oh yeah, you got to, you know, one of my movers told me, he was like, hey, one mover doesn't stop a show. And that's something that I definitely learned, you know, and definitely you know, took heed to. Because hey, if you're not gonna come in, we're still gonna get it done, with or without you.
I love that comment you said. You know, it's like it's e-commerce resistant. I think was the right word you said.
What's that?
The industry, so the moving industry, it's e-commerce resistant. So it's
Yep.
you know because you can't just
Econ proof. Yep. Econ.
on
Yep.
proof. Yes, I mean it's that's a great term. You know, it's like no matter what you do, you still got to shift the box. Like you know, it's you
Yeah.
can digitize it till you're blue in the face, automate it, systemize it, do whatever you want, but the box still has to go.
Exactly. And most people, they would try to move that box for the first time themselves, but after they realize how arduous it is,
Hmm.
they're going to hire movers because no one wants to carry a couch up 3 flights of stairs in the hot Texas sun when it's 100 degrees. No one wants to move their heavy grandma's buffet up upstairs, you know. So again, moving is an industry that's not going anywhere, and it's just, you know, it's still doing well now with the pandemic going on.
And are you price driven, or are you quality driven, or solution driven, or
You know,
what's the driver for you?
so initially starting out, I was more obviously you can't sustain any business without having quality. But I wanted to get into the industry with lower prices and gradually increase my prices over time or whatever. But obviously, I had to learn what I didn't know. So again, quality may have suffered some initially, but as I learned more about the industry, and again, always wanting to put out the best product or service, you know, it definitely got better.
So what happens? So you got the company going, you've handed in your notice, 2 weeks, you're out, or you know, and you're in full time now.
Oh man, we're rocking and rolling. You know, I got so much business from my business clients at the bank, you know, because they were referring people to me, and I was actually moving some of my clients there. So we hit the like, we took off like a rocket, you know, and that's something I don't take for granted because I know how hard it is to get a business up and rolling. But I am grateful and fortunate that that business, it literally, it took off like a rocket. Uh, Directories that really helped us with leads that we capitalized on. Yeah, so we took off like a rocket. We wound up doing, I don't know, 300 moves at first. So we wound up doing about 300 moves from June to the end of the year.
Jesus, that's a
Yeah,
fierce amount of work.
yeah.
And are you applying, you know, are you just doing the, you focused on getting the most moves per day, per week, whatever it is, the most number of transactions, or are you applying your finance knowledge, and are you, taking it at that stage? What way were you trying to grow?
Oh yeah, so I'm glad that I have some financial knowledge, about, because so most people, so there's different stages one can enter a business. So you have your technicians, you have your managers, and you have your CEOs. Your technicians are people who are your day-to-day people in your field work people or whatever, the people who are handles your daily operations. Your managers are the people who actually oversee that, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. Your CEO is someone who sets the tone, sets the sail, direction, the speed for the company. Most people who start businesses, they get in at technicians. If you're a great mover or whatever, it's like, you know what, I move furniture well. I can start my own business. But you don't know anything about finances. You don't know anything about leading people. You're essentially a technician who has started a business, which that's fine because we all start somewhere. But if you stop your growing there, your business is gonna eventually crumble because you don't know anything about managing your finances, your books, your accounting, the legal side of it. You just know how to be a great mover, which again, that will only take you so far.
I like that, because I mean it's quite a common, especially in the trades. You get somebody who's really good at plumbing, or
Yep.
as you say, moving, but the problem is then they don't necessarily have the acumen to do that. So they're either
Yep.
really good at their trade or really good at running the business, and it's hard to get both. But you kind of seem to bridge that.
Yeah. So you have to be a learner. If obviously if you're in business and you're not a lifelong learner, you're not gonna probably be in business for long because you always have to continue to adapt, continue to learn, to continue to grow, continue to network, those things, um, to know what you don't know. Whether it's managing people. I quickly realized that everyone can't be managed the same way. You can't talk to a person who's 45 or necessarily, like, when say talk to, and not necessarily in a bad way, but you can't communicate with someone who's 45 or motivate someone who's 45 the same way that you can motivate someone who's 25. And again, that's just, everyone has their different motivating factors. And as a leader, CEO, you have to understand it, and you have to be able to, adjust your styles to fit accordingly.
I like that. So your first year in, you're absolutely nailing it. So what happened then?
So first year in, we have a good year. Second year, I'm planning we're going to have an even better year. So second year come, we have an even better year.
And you're just able to grow and grow and grow. You staying local? Are you getting more vans, or how are you working on the expansion?
So uh, what did you ask?
Are you just able to grow in terms of the number of vans, and or how are you
Yeah.
expanding?
So when so I did so the moving industry, it's a huge market. I look at it as I always looked at it as, I didn't necessarily get into business to make, obviously the the principle is to make money, but that wasn't my first priority. My first priority in owning my own moving company was for autonomy over my own time, over my future, autonomy over my life. Having said that, I never wanted to be the biggest company on the moving company on the block, because I just wanted to have my piece in the pie. I just wanted to get my share. And I knew that if I wanted to become the biggest company on the block, it was going to take a lot more time, a lot more systems, a lot more strategies, a lot more headaches. And I looked at moving as like a stepping stone. So we stayed with one truck, but we rented another truck frequently to handle more moves and bigger moves and things like that. But I never got into it to wanting to become like this big conglomerate. You know, I wanted to stay very nimble and keep my margins at a nice percentage where everything worked for me.
Were you able to systemize it or bring it in you know, were you able to make the business your own, or was it always going to be the you know, the most number of hours or moves that you did? Was that always going to be the key thing?
When you ask make it your own, what do you mean by that?
Well, it's like, you know, people sort of say there's no such thing as competition, but you know, at the same time, it's, you know, there's a set market, right? You know, and
Uh-huh.
it's who can deliver. But I mean, how much is physically delivering, and how much is, you know, being the best, the standout, the highest quality? You know, how much can you control your fate in that industry?
Well, I mean, you can only control what you can control, and all of those things that you've mentioned, you can control to a certain extent. You know, you don't necessarily want to be eyeballing your competition. You definitely want to know what they're up to. But what's happening in your organization and your company, it's tailored to however you have your business structured, you know. But we were able to, I mean, everything was professional, from the trucks, the uniforms, the website, um, the guys just knowing what to say, what not to say. So yeah, we were definitely able to just completely make it unique. Everyone knew us, you know, again, referrals. So yeah, it was definitely a tailor-made company.
So is that where you're at today then, Deon, or did things move on?
Yeah, so things moved on for me after about the third year in the industry. Like, coming into the third year of the industry and having said, you know, just like any other business and industry, moving, there's a lot of um, stuff that you don't necessarily want to deal with, or a lot of headaches that become very compounding. And for me, one of those issues were labor. So in the Bible, it talks about how the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. That can be said that can be said in the moving industry, because I believe everyone can be millionaires in the moving industry if the labor pool if the labor pool complemented that, supported that. Because again, there's people are moving every single day. There's no shortage of people needing to move. So again, the income, the money to be made is there. What's not there is the people to actually perform the jobs, and how much you're going to put up with all of that, the drama, the issues that they bring, along with the inherent risk and nature of running a moving industry, like claims, breaking items, stuff like that. But going into year three, I was thinking, hey, you know, what's going to be my next plan, you know. So I got to thinking about selling the company, because again, as you had alluded to, we had made it, you know, tailored. Again, it was systems in place, processes in place for the most part. And now I'm thinking, hey, can I sell this? You know, can I move on? Can I learn from this? You know, take everything that I've learned, apply it to something else. And that's really along with, I wouldn't say it was just that, but um, it was along with just being burnt out on it, along with a lot of lead sources, not a lead, a big, losing a big lead source that we had, and along with just being fed up with the BS that came with it. So I was at the point of, you know, what is going to be my next move here? Because again, I didn't necessarily do it for the money. The money was just a bonus. What I enjoyed most about it was I didn't have to answer to anyone. You know, I controlled my own future. And again, having already known from the initial point that I didn't want the biggest company in the first place. I just wanted to just have my fair share of the market, which I did. So, and again, I looked at it as a stepping stone. So going into year three, I was looking at, okay, can I sell this business? And at that time, I think I was actually outsourcing some moves to another moving company. And I was telling him, what I was facing or whatever. And he's like, hey, why don't you just outsource the moves to us? I mean, that's what you've already been doing or whatever. Why not do that? And before we even got to that point or whatever, I got a couple of offers. Well, I got one offer. It wasn't what I was wanting. I did get a lot of interest, but after speaking to him about just outsourcing the whole operation to his company and other companies and still keep the moving company, that's what I've been doing ever since. And that's allowed me to go into coaching, life and business coaching, which has always been a passion again, because I've always enjoyed talking to people, helping people, bridge the gap between where they are in their life, where they want to be, using my experiences, to speak light into their situations. I know I went around the world with that,
No, no.
but hopefully that sums it up.
So being able to coach and see other businesses. I mean, you've had it with your business. You've been able to see the staff. You've seen the growth. You've seen the potential. So that's allowed you to get a real good overview of the market, right?
Certainly, certainly. And again, I do life and business coaching. Um, when I became certified as a life coach, it really didn't come as a surprise to most people, just because those who knew me on social media knew that that's the type of person that I've always been for the most part. So it was just like, yeah, I saw that coming, so it was second nature. But again, having gone through, we all go through lessons and experiences, but I've always been one to try to learn from everything that I've gone through, to apply it to use at another time or help other people, especially in life and business, having run the company. But coaching is something that's what I'm going to do, coaching to the day I leave this earth, because again, I truly love speaking with people and helping them get to where they want to be in life, or just giving them perspective on things, whatever. But I've also started another company, and that's Premier Mobile Billboards. That's a digital mobile billboard company.
Mm.
I started that probably close to a year after the coaching business.
What triggered that?
So coaching, I don't. So coaching is its own entity, own legal entity. But I don't necessarily look at that as like my bread and butter. That's a passion. That's a hobby of mine. That's something I truly love to do. Like, again, because I know I'm a person who likes to say they live on purpose, and I would like for other people to live on purpose as well, by just being your best, getting over obstacles, getting past limiting beliefs, finding happiness, finding purpose, changing careers if that's what you want to do or whatever. So again, I love talking to people like about that, but I still needed a machine. I still needed something that's actually going to build wealth for me. And again, you can't do that without a business.
With the coaching side, I mean, what's your USP? What makes you stand out? And because it can be a fairly competitive market.
Oh yeah, certainly. I live what I preach. I live what I preach. I'm not going to tell you anything that I haven't done or will do myself. I try to be authentic and as transparent as possible. Again, I literally try to live what I preach. And I think that speaks for itself. And I'm not telling you to get up at 5:30 if I'm not getting up at 5:30. I'm not telling you to put in this amount of work. Or I'm not telling you to step out your comfort zone if I'm not doing it myself.
That's always key, isn't it? I mean, it's actually being out there and doing it and being involved.
Yep.
Being able to take it forward. With the mobile business, the mobile billboard business, I mean that's going to be quite an interesting market at the moment, right? Because everyone it's moving over to digital. There's a lot of
Yeah,
change going on.
certainly. And so when I went, so having the coaching business for a couple months, again, I know I still wanted an actual business in lieu with the coaching business. And I was, I pondered on it for a while, what is going to be my next venture. And last year, I actually kind of took like a year off where I just, focused on building the coaching business, focused on just not doing anything pretty much, Um, and I really pretty much pondered on just worked on building the coaching business and got to a point where, hey, what's going to be my next venture? And it came down to digital mobile billboards, just because I knew that, well, one of the perks was I could actually advertise my coaching business as well as the moving company on the digital billboard truck. So that was a great compliment. But upon before embarking on the mobile billboard business, I don't do anything really off impulse. It's more about I like to get a divine message. I like to be in tune and aligned and just hear from the universe, and just to be sure that I'm on the right track. And I received a divine message, and that's what I hold on to this day to get me through. Is having that.
That's interesting. I mean, would you describe yourself because you used talking about the divine, you've talked about really there really sort of about your consciousness, talking about miracle, desire. So would you describe yourself as religious or spiritual, or what way do you slant yourself there?
Definitely not religious.
Hmm.
I'm just in tune with myself. I believe what I believe. I'm not going to limit my belief. I'm not going to believe one religion over the other. If that religion helps me, I'm going to use it. That's just the way I look at it. I'm not nothing is off limits. If I can benefit from what's being taught in that religion or culture or whatever, I'm going to use it.
Yeah. And in terms of, you were saying this, the idea came to you, and it's almost divine inspiration.
Huh?
Do you practice in terms of personal development, or how do you practice in terms of intuition or?
Oh yeah. So for me, personal development is top priority, because again, I believe the moment you stop growing, you actually stop living. Uh, but for me, it's more about just being very self-aware, being very conscious and cognizant of what you let into your subconscious, because
Mm.
I know how powerful the subconscious mind is, and just letting it take root from there.
No, it's great to always see, there's this, it's keeping on top of that personal development side. And you know in the coaching world, do you find, is that something you lean on as well, or do you work with people that are sort of aware of their sort of personal development and their sort of universal power, if you like?
You know, my friend and I, one of the same friends that I grew up with, who were in that tight circle, we still talk to this day. He actually lives about 30 minutes from me. And we're always talking about just personal development, spirituality, and things like that. And most people aren't in tune with themselves, and it actually shows, like especially in this day and age, because there's so much distractions, there's so many distractions, there's so much lures out there that can get you off your rocker. But I just feel like being just in alignment with yourself, you you know you know what is and what isn't. But I definitely come across people who are not in alignment, or not have not connected with their inner selves, because again, that takes work. All the trauma, all the experiences that you and I have been through. Number one, you got to acknowledge it. Number two, you have to want to go and dig it up to uproot it, to plant a new seed in your subconscious mind. Most people's lives are just on replay because again, that hurt, that trauma, it's just coming out in different areas of their life or whatever, because again, they haven't gone back and uprooted that seed and planted a new seed.
And you talk about being in alignment. How do you get into alignment, or how do you understand, in terms of you talk about connecting to your inner self? What?
I think it's different for everybody. For me, I'm not the biggest meditating person. I'm more about, I like thinking. I like which can be a great thing and which can be a bad thing. But I enjoy thinking because it just puts me in a space where, like, I just look at things from different perspectives, and it allows me to see the bigger picture a lot of times and understand things that I wouldn't have had I not been really conscious of my thinking.
No, it's always good, and because understanding your inner power, your potential is something that people sort of have a suspicion that they're capable of more, they could do more, but never quite know how to achieve it or find it.
Yeah. Again, I think it's different for everyone. For some, it may be meditation. For some, it may be exercising. For some, it may be reading books or whatever. Most people don't want to experience enough to find out what it is for them. And that's where the problem lies. Again, the way that I become in tune and aligned for myself is not going to be the same way my next door neighbor, comes to alignment with themselves. But because I've gone through a lot in my life, and I've not only just gone through it, but I've gone back to take from that and help me moving forward. Most people aren't willing to do that work because it's so sensitive. They don't want to touch it, and again, it hinders them later on in life, I believe.
Yeah, it's always trying to get out of your, get your own inner strengths out there and move forward. So that's where you are today then, Deon. I mean, you have multiple businesses there, and you're able to help people and move forward, right?
Yep, that's where I'm at. I just, I feel like I'm living one of the best lives ever, not because I have multiple business. It's because of the understanding, the perspective on life. And if I continue to just want more understanding, perspective, life it's relative. There's someone who's living in the slums or hood can utter the same words. Most people think that you're living a great life or your best life when you have your money or your finances in order. Yeah, that helps, but for me, it's more mental. If you can control the mental and get that right, everything else is just a reflection.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's so true. It's trying to get the headspace correct.
Yep.
What's the future hold for you, Deon?
What is the future for me? So right now, I'm focused on growing the digital mobile billboard business. I'm going to continue to, strive to be the best person that I can be, whether it's physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, or financially. Those are my areas of life that I really, really hone in on. And I believe if I continue to do that, life is going to give me what I deserve, whatever that is. I don't know. Everyone says, oh, I deserve this. I just believe that if I just continue to be my best in those areas, I'll get what's best for my life.
Well, I like that. That's so true. That's so true. So tell me, what's a guilty pleasure for you?
A guilty pleasure, ice cream. I like to keep my body intact, whatever, working out, but I love ice cream.
What sort?
Cookies and cream.
That is a guilty pleasure. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
So in terms then of, I mean, in books and sort of any recommendations for people out there, what did you find useful and what would you recommend?
Certainly. So business related book, I like to recommend The Personal MBA. If anyone who's thinking about going back to school and getting their MBA, you might want to read, it's called My Personal MBA by Josh Kaufman before, because that book is going to open up your perspective a lot. In terms of becoming a better person, I read Joel Osteen's book. Some people like Joel Osteen, some people is disgusted with his guts, you know. I read his book, Becoming a Better You, and that really helped. That really helped me get into a better headspace in terms of being more positive, expecting greatness for my life and things like that.
Awesome. Yeah, it's always good to have books that sort of widen the mind really and take you forward.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And again, if you, I didn't mean to cut you off, but if you want to truly gain more perspective and uh, open up the your perception on life, reading is key. You'll find things there that will blow your mind.
Do you tend to read? Do you listen? What's your method of learning?
I'm a reader.
Hmm.
I'm a reader. Like I need it to stick. I need to actually see it because I'm a visual person. I need to see it and just really concentrate on it. That way, I know it's stuck with me.
Hmm. No, it's good. I mean, it's good to sort of get that level of immersion.
Oh yeah.
So tell me, what's your fire in the belly then? What's your in summary? How would you define it?
Uh, so my fire is knowing that one day we're here and another day we're not. The next day, possibility that we won't.
Hmm.
And as far as we know it, as I know it, we don't get any reruns. There's no mulligans. So why not give life every single thing that you got? Because again, one day we're here, the next day we're not. I just believe that if you're not doing that, you're cheating yourself on life. Because again, there's no reruns. You can't rewind yesterday. It definitely is what it is, and make the most of it, live the best life you can be, help as many people as you can, and everything else will take care of itself.
Awesome. I mean, it's been great to hear your story. So tell us, Deon, how can people reach out for you, reach out to you and get in contact?
Yeah, so my personal website is deonfowler.com, or you can reach out to me on Facebook at Deon Fowler.
And who's your niche? I mean, who are you going to be able to help the most?
I would probably say on the business side is those people who are just getting to entrepreneurship or teetering between staying at their 9 to 5 or becoming a full-time entrepreneur. On the life coaching side, it would probably be millennials, people that are my age, that don't have life figured out.
Mm.
You're missing happiness. You don't have peace. You don't have no sense of purpose. I can definitely help you with that.
Awesome. I love that. I love that. Deon, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today, and I've loved hearing about your journey and fair play. You've a lot of passion and you've really pushed yourself. So yeah, thank you for sharing all that.
No, Pete, thank you for having me on.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.